You should be hearing me. This is Francis Wade here at Carib HR Forum, and welcome to our webinar tonight on Loud and Proud Communication or HR. See if I can grab a. Here's Sean. Hi, Sean. Hi, Trisha. I see folks are coming in, and we're also broadcasting on YouTube as we speak. Sean, how is that YouTube? That YouTube simulcast? Let's see. So I'm just going to put up the topic for today in case anyone thinks they may be in the wrong place. Here we go. Hi, Athena. See, hi, Valerie. Hi, Miss Judith. Hey, Ahmad, Denise, Julie. So as people come in, I'm putting up the graphic for tonight. This is the Wednesday night HR party. Sean, yes. Let's see what we have over at YouTube. Okay, YouTube is working and being broadcast at the same time. So we'll just give everyone a minute or two to come in, make their way in. We're up to 17 people already. And I'll queue up my first slide. It's just logistics for the evening. Okay, everyone, welcome. Once again, if you're just arriving, my name is Francis Wade, and I'm the founder of Carib HR Forum. And tonight, we're going to be having a very special webinar with 3 very special guests. And as you may see from the chat, I've already put up their pictures, and I'll put it again just to be fancy. There we go. And just to give you a little bit of background about how tonight is going to work. So the logistics for the evening, I'm going to put that up in the chat as well. The logistics of the evening are such that we'll be spending time, almost all of our evening here in, didn't put it up, here in presentation mode here at Remo. And later on in the evening, we're going to be moving on to a part 2. We're going to be spending a half an hour in conference or networking mode with our speakers, asking and answering questions and going back and forth with each other. And as you probably know, and I hope you have remembered, this year here at Carib HR Forum is all about HR putting on its own mask first. And that's a theme that we're going to be carrying all the way to our virtual conference in September 17th, 18th, and 19th. So the countdown is on. We're not quite ready yet to take registrations and do all of that drama, although you can register at the website, virtualconf.caribhrforum.com. It is open. You can sign up. Just all of the fancy doodads that go with registering just aren't quite there yet. And we're just about ready to announce share the dates. Those are coming out tomorrow. Okay. So we have all sorts of stuff happening. And if you're not a member of Carib HR Forum community and you don't know what we're talking about, here's a link that you can use to join. Our memberships are absolutely free, and you can start off as a trial member. And if this is your first webinar, you're actually coming at the tail end of a series of 7 different sessions. So we've had sessions on learning, consulting. A little bit small for me to read, but if you click on the graphic will expand. Compensation, LinkedIn branding, post-leadership lockdown, and tonight our session is on communication. Okay, so let's get rolling. I'm going to introduce Georgia Donaldson, our facilitator tonight. So those of you who know her know that she loves connecting people. And if you know her as a friend, the same connection theme runs through her veins. Through her consultancy business, Corporate Options, which is when I met her, and her bread and butter calling, her today calling as Country Chief Culture and Human Development Officer for JMMB in Trinidad and Tobago. Georgia gets to use her coaching and HR skills to connect people and contribute to people development. Hosting and moderating webinars is one more medium that she uses to lift people to higher heights. So join me. Please welcome Georgia as she guides the discussion with Chris and Leah this evening. So I'm going to grab Georgia and bring her up on the stage. Georgia. Bam. Okay, grabbing Georgia. I'm also going to grab Chris, put him on the stage, and I'm going to put Leah on the stage as well.
I'm here. Hey, Francis.
All right, I'm seeing. Okay, and here we go. I'm going to go disappear for a while until you guys tell me it's safe to come back. Bye now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Francis. Hi, Chris. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Georgia.
Hi,
Hi, Chris.
Hello,
Carib
hello.
HR
Fantastic
Forum
to hear.
Tribe. So all of you who are online, I'd love to see you put an emoji in the chat just to show that you're here. So raise a hand, something. Put a smiley face, something in the chat to let us know you're here. So I'm giving you 15 seconds. Hey, Denise, I'm seeing Nadia, Amand. Yes, come on, let's see. Put your best face forward. I'm seeing, ooh, what is that Athena saying? BSBS. I wonder. Judith. Yes, Carol. Some smiley faces. Dale. Dale, I need a face, not a hello. Show me a face, Dale. An emoji. Paula, welcome. Oh, this is wonderful. Good. So we do have people online, and they're not trolls, right? Yeah? They're legit. Legit people. Okay. So to make sure that they're legit HR people, I'm gonna ask them to put a jargon, an HR jargon online now. We're talking about communication. So hey guys, put an HR jargon. Something that you use in your profession that sometimes anybody else who's listening to you who is not an HR person might not even understand what you're talking about. I'm getting a feedback. Is anyone getting a feedback?
Okay, I'm hearing another thing, yes.
HRIS, yes. Diversity and inclusion, employee engagement, yes. Talent, good. CLA, CLA can mean so many things to so many people. Is that collective labor agreement? HR analytics, comp and ben, yes. And anybody who hears that, I think it's a twin. Comp and ben. Right? Okay, wonderful. So we do have people online, and secondly, we have real people online. That's wonderful. Engage and grow. Thanks, Chris. So, folks, we have two wonderful persons who are going to be leading the discussion today. It is my privilege to facilitate the discussion with Christopher Richard and Leah.
And yes, both, some big feedback.
Yes,
some feedback, Georgia.
Francis, is there any tech support that you can give us?
Maybe I don't know if you can turn down your
let me see if my mic is too loud. Is it better?
A little better, yes.
Turn it down. So let's see if that was no strange. All right, let's push on. Everyone not speaking should go on mic. So that's what Julie is saying. Are there persons who would not be muting their mic at that point in time? I can't understand why we're getting this feedback. All right, so let's push along. So Chris and Leah are going to be answering some questions this evening. And when I saw both profiles, I said, they're so different yet so similar. They have some things in common. And let me tell you what they have in common. They're both head honchos. Chris is CEO of Limited, and that's an IT company, support company. And Leah is the managing director and principal consultant of Trainmark. That's your own company. Oh, this feedback really is not good for participants at all. I wonder if Francis is here and if there's anything we can do. Let's refresh. Francis has always said refresh is my tool. So let me try that.
All right. Leah, you want to just kind of start off with your little introduction? Maybe it will. Are you hearing? By the way, Leah, are you hearing any feedback now?
No, I'm not hearing any. So, let's see. I'll share she's again.
That's better?
Okay. Yes,
Great. No feedback now.
definitely not.
The refresh button worked.
Yes,
Yay.
fantastic, excellent.
Type refresh
Now,
in the chat. People, refresh a bit.
now
Woohoo.
we know.
Good. So you heard that they're both head honcho. And let me tell you something else that they have in common. They're both voracious readers. So Chris has said that he reads what, about 40 books a year, Chris? Leah,
Something like that.
there's a bookshelf behind you, Leah, with maybe about
Several.
40,000 books on it. Yes. And I can say that I'm a reader too. If you count Archie Comics and Mad Magazine, you count those? I would get up to about 50 books a year. So they're both readers. They're both experienced people. They've had, way over 15, 20 years experience. I don't want to go any further so that I'm not dating you. Another interesting thing is that they both have wine in common. Now, wine, the noun, not wine, the other, not wine, the verb. So Chris, there you go. So Chris is a wine consultant, and Leah loves a fine wine. Yes, so she's a wine consumer.
I'm a consumer.
That's in common. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Leah D'Souza and Christopher Record. Put your hands together and welcome them. We're going to jump right into it. We're talking about communication this evening, folks, and you're going to have opportunities throughout the evenings proceeding to talk to us and to talk about communication. But really and truly, what is communication? And if I were to simplify it, just about getting a message across. It's really relaying information. So communication is getting a message across. And it is often said that communication can make or break a relationship. I think I'm going to try refresh one more time. Oh, I'm seeing something in the chat. Really saying his computer crashed. He's working on getting it back. I wonder if that's causing any problems. So let me do refresh one more time. Sean, yes, I turned my volume on any low. Wow, Mr. Murphy's nice. But we're pushing ahead. So let me throw the first question now. If I were to ask you online, if you were to talk about any situation where you're uncomfortable communicating, which is the most uncomfortable situation for you? Is it face-to-face conversation? Is it in the boardroom in a meeting? Or is it writing an email? Where do you have the most discomfort? You can just put in the chat, which one? Is it face-to-face? Is it meetings, boardroom, team meetings, or email? Where do you have the most discomfort? I see boardroom. Networking event. Yeah, what else? And Dale, I hope that you're looking at the YouTube so you can tell us what the people were saying. Someone says all of the above. Introverts curse. Boardroom. So boardroom so far is a winning one. With the discomfort, the main discomfort is. All right, great. So boardroom again. You've heard what the people are saying, and you have had experience with HR professionals from all walks of life and in different scenes and settings. Would you be able to cite for us an example of a time where you witnessed an HR professional putting his or her voice in the room, despite their fear, and how impactful it was and the difference it made? Chris, you heard?
Sorry, I didn't hear that part because I was trying to focus and I focused too much.
Okay, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes,
Start
Chris.
over again.
So you've seen what some people have said. So the boardroom is really where the mystery is for a lot of people. And you would have seen HR professionals, in all different categories and walks of life.
Yes.
So can you recall or cite the time when you've seen an HR professional show up and what difference it made.
Definitely. So good afternoon, everyone, and it's been a journey for me getting here. Having started out as a technician and then moving into sales and marketing. Well, started life as a teacher at first, and I'm also hearing a little tiny bit of the feedback, and I've on a headphone, so I'm not sure. It's a platform tonight. I think the platform of it is a slight challenge.
Yes.
So, in my own office, most recently, we have had a promotion, and the team member who handled HR operations was invited to the board meeting, to the HR or remuneration subcommittee for the first time, and she was nervous, right? So one of the things that we did is said, look, we've all been there, we've all had our nervous situations going in for the first time, so let us do like a prep meeting before. So myself and some of the other team members kind of had like a mock, let's call it a little mock board meeting session. And she went through her presentation, exactly what she was supposed to do. We asked her a number of questions, and then, you know, she still was literally was visibly shaking. And when it was time for the board meeting, she came in and she did her presentation. And let me tell you, it went well. The fact of the matter is that she delivered the information that she was supposed to deliver. Or, you know, when we have board meetings, we have board meetings only quarterly. So these committee meetings, so this specific board, other board meetings I'm on have monthly. But with this specific one, because I saw the fear in this person, no one in that room ever knew how much she was literally shaking probably in her boots. But the fact of the matter is that with the help of the team that went through and prepped and asked the questions, I think that made a tremendous difference with the with preparation. One of the things that my chairman of my company is very fond of is ensuring that we have prep sessions, especially when we have new team members doing this for the very first time. So that is what works for us.
Okay, great. So it's making sure sometimes so that somebody else knows that you have a challenge, so that the team can help to prepare you. Yes.
That is correct.
So when she eventually showed up in the meeting now, what difference did it make?
She was much more poised. She was much more relaxed, or appeared that way. She had, apart from the relevant information that were on the slides in front of her, she had other anecdotal information that could back up the slides to let the team that was in there know that she was on top of it and knew exactly what we're talking about. So all of the prep and us ensuring that we kind of guided her, and on top of that, explaining to her who's going to ask the hard questions, the type of information that this person wants, and so as a matter of just even giving her an idea of the personalities that we're needing. Right.
So that support is so important. Leah, we're doing a tag team here. So having heard what Chris said, and you are our talent development specialist, what are your thoughts now on the importance of HR people really showing up and having their voice heard?
Thank you, Georgia. Thanks, Chris. First of all, I just want to say that I am super thrilled to be here. When Francis contacted me and asked me to come on board, if you follow me on Instagram or on YouTube, you know that I'm all about saying and doing loud and proud. And I say that over and over. And when he told me, you know, Leah, there's something about loud and proud that he thinks would resonate with HR professionals, and I usually say HR pros respectfully, I was thrilled because I usually reserve that work for entrepreneurs. So there's obviously something bubbling within the HR community that wants to speak up more loud and proud. So I'm thrilled for that. In terms of getting your voice heard, here's the thing. It's not about prepping just for a board meeting. It's not about prepping just for a presentation. It's really about having that belief within yourself that if you have value to add it, right? You know, I think for a lot of HR professionals, the issue is not whether you have to add what, you know, what you have to add is of importance. It is. It's really about whether are you getting your value across, and are you willing to do what it takes to get your value across? And there may be several reasons why you're not getting your value across. But here's an important thing, I think, Georgia, that HR professionals need to start thinking about to get their voice out. First thing, it's not about the CEO, right? So the CEO may run the business, they may be the last person to go to, but it's not about them. It's not about what the CEO wants. It's not about waiting for a seat at the table. That thinking is what I call victim mentality. What it's really about is about you, and it's about the business. And when I say it's about you, it's not about being self-centered or narcissistic, but it's about your values, your mindset. You know, what do you stand for? What are you willing to do to get your value across? You know, are you willing in the middle of a management meeting to stop that meeting and let the rest of the people at the table know this is an important issue that needs to be heard, that we need to take care of? One of my clients that actually was an HR manager who became a CEO of a highly technical company, she was actually one of the most outspoken leaders I have ever seen. You know, she was not afraid to voice her opinion. And another thing I will say, Georgia, is if you are not passionate about what you want to talk about, why should other people be passionate? So, you know, when I'm training new trainers, the number one question all new trainers ask me is, Leah, how do we keep people engaged? And I always say, if your passion doesn't come through, why should they listen to you, right? If they can't feel it. So it's the same thing, I actually think for HR professionals. If you are not communicating in a way that lets people know, wow, we need to listen to this, then why should they listen to you? I think in today, people are pulled apart with so much information that in order to get their attention, we have to communicate with that passion and even a sense of urgency as well.
That sounds good, Leah. No, that's really true. And the passion drives you, and people see it. It comes out in your communication. So, Chris, let's go back. Let's look again at the first question we asked, and let's pose it this way. So, in your experience, you may have seen one of your HR professionals so the one that you had before was nervous, but she actually showed up. But is there a case where one showed up, but you were disappointed in the way he or she showed up? And what do you think he or she could have done different?
Yeah, I've witnessed a few of those situations, and because again at the board level, so we sometimes speak about examples from the management level, but the two examples I'm giving are from the board level. So when you're on these boards, you're not as part of the management team, but you do get preparation from the CEOs of the various companies around issues that are there. So when you invite these team members into the boardroom to have a discussion around a specific issue, and you know you got pre-information that this person was very vocal about certain specific challenges and issues that were going on in the organization, and then they are now in the room in front of all the decision makers, and it's now time to just kind of just deliver the goods, and you sat there and you're like, okay, when is it going to happen? Is it now? And the fact is that there was a high expectation of communication. There's a high expectation of, and it just didn't happen. And so we, again, I mean, it come back to kind of either guidance or what Leah said a while ago. If the person is not passionate, and then there's nothing, I can't inject passion in them just like that. It's not my job. You know, maybe I call Leah to do that. But the fact of the matter is that there are the other situations where, you know, some people do need a little jolt. They need a little jolt and a little shake up to let them know that it's okay. Come, just you know, let it out, you know.
So true, Chris, because we have it within us. It's just to get it out. Leo, what do you do to get it out? You know, HR comes with a different perspective. And what is your remedy for helping them to get it out?
Well, first thing I would say is not a magic wand. I would say it is a process. Now, I will say, Georgia, there might be people on this webinar right now who they're doing a great job, you know, and this is easy for them. You know, to them, I say, pat yourself on the back, right? And keep doing what you're doing. But I do know that for a lot of people, this is not easy, right? So I'm really trying to speak to those people. How do you actually address this? So it is a process. And I think the first step in this process, before you speak up, before you learn how to speak up, I think you need to look in the mirror. And by looking in the mirror, I mean you need to be honest about your own strengths and weaknesses. And I'm not in HR, I'm in talent, but because of where talent is positioned in most Caribbean and South American countries, it means I've had to interact with a lot of HR people. So I've had hundreds of conversations with HR people. And I think there's a lot of pressure on HR professionals to have this image that they are knowledgeable about everything and they know everything, right? And that's just, it's not realistic. You know, even when I think about what HR professionals are called upon to be good at, coaching, performance appraisals, IR, payroll, you know, it's so many things, event management. There, you know, there has to be a moment when as a HR professional, you look in the mirror and maybe for you, you have to say, you know what, I'm not good at speaking up. I need some help in that area, right? When I was researching for this webinar, I was looking at the stories of different HR professionals who became CEOs. And one that stood out was a guy, let me just make sure from my notes, Nigel Travis, I believe is his name. He became the head of the Dunkin' Group. And, you know, for him, he said, the truth is he didn't know how to read a spreadsheet at first, you know, and he said, you know, sort of like, just to kind of paraphrase what I remember was, you know, be honest about what you don't know. And then of course you get help for that, right? You know, you get training or whatever, coaching, mentoring. But I think that's a very important first step, Georgia, to be realistic about what you don't know. And if it is that it's about speaking up, you need to do that. Second thing I will say is get feedback. So feedback, you know, the saying feedback is the breakfast of champions, and there's a reason for it. You know, if you could eat feedback, real honest feedback about how you perform, and if you're willing to make changes on that, well, you're only going to grow, right? So feedback is important. I will say in terms of HR professionals, if you are looking to get feedback, I'll even go so far as to say, make sure you are usually ones who are in charge of feedback surveys, right? A lot of the feedback surveys. I'm actually going to say, make sure that if you are getting feedback via survey, don't let it be you administering it, because your unconscious bias will influence how you word it. This is the truth, you know, we're human beings, right? Feedback is super powerful if it is administered correctly. If it is you have somebody to walk you through it, because I've also heard a lot of horror stories where people do get feedback, but there's nobody to help them digest the information. So I think those are two things. I think you need to look in the mirror, be realistic about your strengths and weaknesses. And I think then you need to get some feedback on how you're actually doing. So what I mean by feedback, because I want to break it down for people, because I like to get granular, right? So what I mean by feedback is literally asking your colleagues, the people you work with, the people above and below you, okay, so how did I do in that board meeting? What did you think? Right? So literally asking for feedback. I mean to go at that level.
Great feedback. They say feedback is a gift. And who doesn't like receiving gifts?
Yeah, let me just add to that, Georgia. Just to add to what Les fully agreeing 100% what you said. And from my experience as CEO in an organization, and when there is some concern, and the HR person turns up and actually does present and gets their voice in the room, yes, we do encourage our team members to come back and we do a little, I guess I can call it a micro 360, right, Leo, where we come in and just have some sort of like a power. How did that go? What do we think? So we've done it a few times, but after, you know, the first 2 or 3 times, I realize that they're off to the races. They've kind of just grown their own wings now. Then you kind of just, you know, but still, there's always continuous check and balance. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we do in not board meetings, but all our internal office management meetings, we actually rate them at the end. We actually have a scoring. You know, did we solve a problem? Did we start on time? Did we end on time? And so once the HR person is in that, she's actually part of the part of the management team and part of those meetings. And yeah, hands are raised and feedback definitely is part of our culture.
That's important. That's so important. There's a little word, Chris. This word, it's a small word, but it has great impact. And that word is respect. And people don't listen to you because they don't respect you. And oftentimes we don't get the respect that we don't show up the way we ought to show up. So share with us now as a CEO, how you demonstrate respect for your HR professional and what they bring to the table. Is there any tangible way you show that you respect the office of the HR person so that they can feel comfortable coming forward?
So when I was tipped to become CEO for the organization, maybe a year before, my now chairman, then CEO of the organization, founder of the company, said to me that, Chris, look, I know you have, you're 80% there, but I'm actually going to get a mentor for you. And so he, in Jamaica, one of Jamaica's leading businessmen, founder of many companies and chairman of many companies, he had me sit with this man for the better part of a year, every month for a number of years. And one of the things I learned in that meeting was just a massive importance of people. That's what his words were. He says, Chris, your people are your absolute more important asset. Treat them like you just ensure that you listen to them and as what was said a while ago, we don't know it all. So you have to ensure that you have the people around you. And me, I am not a details person. Right? I'm the big vision person. I have 500 ideas by breakfast. Ask me to sit on and get into any spreadsheet about it, not happening, right? Ask me to manage in a calendar, whatever, not happening. So I have to ensure that I have the right people around me. And when I understood that, and then I realized that in our management meeting, the HR report was all the way at the bottom. And I was like, no, but we can't be saying that people and HR is the most important thing, but then we wait until the last part of the meeting. So I flipped it and I ensured that my HR line item agenda, all people issues, all talent issues, anything dealing with any human resource or whatever, all the new fancy words you want to call it, is dealt with first. So whatever is even in a staff meeting, I have flipped the agenda in a staff meeting. So the staff meeting now, have once a month, starts with the shout outs, the big ups, all the various things around the team and the people, because it's massively important that we walk the talk that we're talking about. We can't be saying that people are the most important thing, but we're not doing anything about it. So, and then the last thing that I also did was when we so after becoming CEO of the company, I now have to write, because I'm a CEO of a publicly traded company, I have to make a contribution to the annual report that comes out every year that we send to our shareholders. And I have to present at the annual general meeting and all of these things. So in that first annual report, I sat down there and I was going through writing it. I took up 20 other annual reports, spent a couple of weekends reading them, seeing the makeup of what a CEO usually says. And again, I decided I'm going to start out talking about my team. And interestingly enough, I actually got pushback. And the pushback was, Chris, you need to focus on the customer. The customer pays the bills. And I said, well, if the team not taking care of the customer not going to pay no bill, right? And so anyway, no, my annual reports typically start off with some commendation for the team or whatever recognition that the team has contributed. So that's what I have done in recognizing that I think HR is important. I think our people are important. And I think everything around the management of, or using Leah's words, the talent development of the entire organization is important.
So Leah, before I ask you to jump in, I just want to give the participants an opportunity now to go right back in the chat and tell us, think about your own organization's annual report or your board meeting report. Where does HR, where do the HR matters fall? In the middle of the report, at the beginning of the report, at the end of the report, or nowhere in the report? So just hit us a line in the chat to tell us from your own recollection in your board report or your team report, whatever it is, where does it go?
In the middle and sometimes at the end.
Sometimes at the end, not sure where. Every finance comes first, yes? Upper middle class. Some annual reports put it at the end, somewhere in the middle. Okay. Anybody else? And this is an interesting point, Chris. You know, if more CEOs were like you and placing the emphasis on people the way you're placing the emphasis on people, it would make a world of difference. So Leo, we're talking now about this thing about respect. But people respect you when they believe. You hearing me? Good. We're talking about respect. Were you hearing me, Leo?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
So we're talking about respect. But most people respect you when they think you're credible. What are the tips you have now to give our HR people so that they increase this level of credibility and in effect, increase the level of respect that they have?
So here's the thing. The first thing I would ask about that annual report, if you really want to be respected, is not where HR comes in it. Is did every person on the HR team read it cover to cover? That is what will give you respect. You read that and then in the corridor, have a conversation with a leader, with a co-worker, with a manager. Then they'll be like, wow, HR is interested. HR knows. So that is the first thing I'm going to say about that annual report. Make sure everyone in your team reads it cover to cover. And here's what. HR has to be done with, again, acting, I guess, like you have to know everything. There are going to be bits and pieces of the annual report that you don't understand. This is an opportunity to use your network, reach out to others in the organization and say, hey, I didn't really understand this bit, or I'd love to learn more about your department. So I'm actually going to say use that annual report as a means for learning about the business. And something I said at the start, when I mentioned to you all that, you know, it's not about the CEO, it's about you and it's about the business. And the truth is, it's always about the business. Every time you speak up, it should be about putting the business first. And that doesn't mean that you're not thinking about the people. That mindset has to sort of be done with. You are thinking about the people, but decisions are made on the business. And, you know, are you making decisions based on what the business needs or on pleasing a particular audience? And I'll even challenge some HR professionals out there. Would you make a decision that would change your role if it was the best for the business? You know, and that's really the mindset that you have to have if you want to be respected, because that's what we're talking about right now, right? If you want to be respected. So I would say that's something. Something I would also say, talking about report, since that came up, is that I think HR needs to do an even better job at reporting and sharing what you do. So just bear with me. I'm going to go a little talent development nerdy on you. Okay, but it's all for a good cause.
Have you here, Leah? Go right ahead. That's why we have you here.
Some of you may know about Kirkpatrick evaluation. Let me just see a quick one there. Does anybody know about Kirkpatrick evaluation? Yes. See
yes,
some yeses.
Yes, raise your hand.
You do know it. Okay, so maybe for Chris, this is just for you, okay, right? So Kirkpatrick evaluation, after every training, it was used really for training. There are 4 levels, or there should be 4 levels of evaluation, right? So first level, I should test some of you all, but I'll be quick with it. The first level is reaction. Basically, did people like it? Second level is learning. Did they learn something? Third level is their behavior. Did their behavior change on the job? And the fourth level is results, or the business impact. Now, I'm going to tell you something. From my observation, in 16 years, what level do you think most companies go up to? Be honest. You don't have to call your own. Of course, yours is going all the way up, right? 3, you're lucky. Wow, Paula. 3, 2, yeah, 2. I'm going to say most are going up to 2. So they're just rating, did they like it? Did they learn something? Some are going to 3. And a minority, Claudette, a minority is going to 4, saying, did this have a business impact? Here's the thing. So many HR professionals, you have not just training, but I'm just talking about different initiatives that you have. If you want the business to know that you are making an impact, you need to be reporting, but you need to be reporting at that level 4. And some people might say level 5 is ROI, but we can have that debate another time, right? But you want to be reporting on level 4. The executive, I'm drinking coffee, so I'm getting very real right now. The executive really doesn't care about the level 1, the level 2. I'm sorry. unless it is compliance trading, right? The business wants to know they're investing money in a whole bunch of different initiatives, right? Is it actually having an impact on the business? So I'm going to say report and share at that level. I think that's a really important one. And third thing, to get respect, I'm going to say, with a lot of the changes happening now, technology wise, I think HR professionals have to be very careful if every time they speak up, it's only speaking up out of a voice of protocol and procedures, because AI is a coming, right? Artificial
Yes.
intelligence is coming, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
artificial
Speak
intelligence
it, Leah. Speak it.
will know all your procedures and your protocols and your laws, right? So I'm going to say something. If you think tomorrow, you have to think tomorrow AI is going to do that part of my job. If I have to be respected and valued, well, what else am I going to bring, to my job? It's here. Yes,
Great
Karen.
point.
AI.
Great
Yeah.
point.
It's real. It's so real.
Leah, you said look in the mirror. And when we look in the mirror, are we seeing the same thing over and over? And if we keep seeing the same thing over and over again, then our clients and all the other people who are looking on are seeing the same thing over and over. And if we want to gain credibility, we need to change, the picture that we're seeing in the mirror. That leads me nicely and squarely now, Chris, into another point that I want to raise. You're an IT guy, and you've moved in several different fields. And generally, IT people usually don't become CEOs. And unfortunately, generally, HR people don't become CEOs. Why do you think that is so? And how you think it can be different?
Great question and great point, Georgia. I'm actually one of the few. But interestingly enough, it's exactly what Leah said a while ago. Getting involved with management, because I started out life as a technician. And then at some point in time, I realized that I had to switch. I had to, using the often used word nowadays, I had to pivot, right? And because of personal need, personal want, was hungry for more. And in a number of presentations that I've delivered over the last 10, 15 years, I've been making the call for IT people to understand the business so that they can have a relevant voice.
One second, Leah,
Yes.
Can you mute? Just asking Leah to mute.
Okay. Yes. Oh, that makes massive difference. Wow. Clarity. Yes, I was really struggling a while ago trying to focus on what I'm saying and the feedback. So one of the things that I realized earlier on is that a number of my colleagues were complaining that the things that they wanted to do, the projects that they had, was getting shut down, and then I started to develop a lot of friendships at the C-suite level, mainly because of all of my nocturnal activities. When you own a bar, you have lots of friends in different places, and you had lots of different discussions. And what I come to learn is that there's a translation. There's this communication gap, a real life gap in understanding, right? And nocturnal. And so I started to say to IT folks, I said, guys, the speak that you have at your level, you're walking into the meeting rooms, talking to these C-level with the same speak. They're not getting it. They're not understanding it. As a matter of fact, some of them are actually dodging it, right? So there's nowhere you're going to get that approval for those projects if they don't even understand what you tell. You're going to talk about bits and bytes and megabytes of this and the routing table and firewall. They're sitting on there, their eyes are glossed over, right? So I am coming to realize that in many different areas, for the non-traditional, when I say non-traditional, so if it's a manufacturing firm, it's going to be the logistics and maybe the operations people that will flow to the top. In general business, it's going to be the finance people. And so the whole idea is that if an HR person has any aspirations or any dreams of taking up a leadership role in an organization, not just becoming the chief HR executive, but actually leading the organization, a decision has to be made to educate yourself about something wider, right? I actually put up this banner because I was hiding the bookshelf because the bookshelf doesn't look so pretty, right? it pack up and chaka chaka, as we say in Jamaica, right? But if I was to move over that banner, I saw the books that, I mean, my wife think I'm crazy. Anything happens to me, or I learn about something new, I run and I buy a book. And I sit down and I read it and I get to understand it. Hey, I'm not going to become no expert at it. But all I want to do is just have a general understanding so that I can ask some good questions. Because all I want to do is to be able to find the right questions to ask. Is there a framework? Is there something like that? So I'm using all of that to kind of now come to the answer. I believe, and I saw somebody in the chat talk about introvert, extrovert. I started out life as an introvert. I used to, tell my kids, they can't believe, but I tell my kids that I used to walk around in my little book, and I was right behind my dad, and wherever he went, I went and I sat 2 chairs behind him, and I sat down and read my book. And at some point in time, I got interested in this DJ business and sound system, and I started going out there and playing music with my friends. But the beauty was that you stood up the side behind the console, played the music. I didn't have to interact with anybody. They were all dancing, right? But some point in time, I came to realize that I actually do like selling, and again, reading some books, I deliberately kind of started to change my own personality to be a little bit more outgoing than I was. And I'm not saying that in order to be a CEO or in order to be you have to be an extrovert or outgoing. I just had to, in my ecosystem where I was at, to make some changes because I was afraid to go up and talk to people. I was afraid to share my ideas and thoughts with people. And in a C-suite level, in order to gain whether you're trying to convince people of your point or you're trying to sell an idea, one has to kind of learn that whole, as Dale looked around and saw my Dale Carnegie book was right beside me. And one have to, what the type of the book is? Effective Communications and Human Relations. This is just book up, Just book up why this is sitting right beside me, right? I just finished the course a few months ago. And as I sat in there, I kind of started smiling and realizing, but this is all the information that we have to educate our teams with if they are aspiring for that C-level. So it's a general understanding of the business first and foremost, and secondly, an understanding of how to communicate your points all across to the relevant levels. You have to speak numbers to the CFO guy. You have to speak some sort of just general, take it to the IT guy. You have to speak. So you have to have that translator, that built-in translator, a simplified version. And of course, as Leah said earlier, is be able to demonstrate that passion that you are passionate about this thing. So I know I kind of went around a few different points, but the foundation of it all is getting a wider understanding of the business. As somebody put in point, it was Karen talking about, that's why I acquired an MBA. So I also did the exact same thing. When I decided that I want to run a business like this or this business, that's another business several years ago. I went and I did my MBA, right? Because my first bit of education actually started with life as a teacher. And so my first tertiary education was teaching. And so you do learn a lot about people and a lot about how to listen as a teacher. And so that dovetailed nicely into when I went and did the MBA. So you get a general understanding of general management, and you can take it from there.
Good points, Chris. Good points. And, the point about listening, the point about being open, so important. Leah, or HR people, tell us about the kind of language that they need to be using to get around that table. Is there a particular speak that they should have? Or what about their maintaining their authenticity, but still being able to sit at that table? Put on your mic, Lee.
On what time or what year you are thinking of being at the table. I was speaking recently with a young, a millennial HR professional, and she was telling me that the senior HR pros in her organization, they're trying to keep the status quo, right? So they're trying to keep the table or the culture environment as it is. But I think this year has taught us all something, that the table is changing. The landscape we are in is changing. And I'm going to say newsflash to all generations of HR professionals. Nothing is really the same thing, anymore. Major brands around the world are closing down. Micro and small businesses are growing. people without degrees or long careers are making way more impact. And if you are on social media, you will realize that the people who are making impact, who are influencing your children perhaps, or people out there, they don't have no fancy degrees. They don't have long careers, right? The new workforces are gender neutral. Some countries are doing away with high school exams. So the table is changing. And I think that what that really means is that more than ever, HR professionals need to focus on the value, the unique value that they are bringing to the organization. You know, what is the real change that you could make versus just how do I speak at this meeting? You know, really now is the time to focus on the value. And I'll just give you an unrelated, non-HR, but just an example of what it means to bring your unique value. So one of my coaching clients based in St. Vincent, she is in the healthcare industry, and COVID hit. And, normally, she would be with a team that would be caring for COVID patients, right? Okay, pretty normal. And again, instead of waiting for the table to ask or tell her what to do, her team decided, here's what. Mental health is something today that we all talk about. We know that it's a reality in our lives, that people are affected with mental health issues, and it impacts their work, it impacts their private lives. And her team went to the government and said, here's what, we are all trained in being counselors. How about we also offer mental health care to COVID patients? And, that was something they hadn't thought about. And then they realized, wow, this team is bringing unique value. And of course, okay, that all went well. But that's what I mean when I say, you have to tap into what else can you offer? What else can you bring? And I think when it comes to that language, definitely you have to speak the language of your industry, your business, your craft, also of your audience. And I agree with Chris that you need to speak the language of your audience. But I will say, if you want to break it down even further than that, Georgia, it has to be a language of authenticity. It has to be a language of transparency, inclusivity. That is huge. Your language has to be relevant, and it has to, again, be focused on business outcomes.
Business outcomes. And that's what it boils down to, Leah, because if we're adding value, and if we are considering what is it in it for the company, how am I contributing to that? That's when it makes a difference. That's when it makes a difference.
And I agree. And I just want to add on to that. So in essence, if I almost had to sum it up, Georgia, what I would say is I'm actually asking HR professionals to think like entrepreneurs. Right? I know that a lot of you know me as a TD consultant, but I've just launched my 4th business venture in 16 years. The first hat that I wear is that of a business person. It is the first hat that I wear. And I know, Chris, you will agree, or any of you who have, side hustles, businesses, thinking like an entrepreneur is one. If you practice it or if you live it, it is a way of thinking that pushes you to be so accountable to the business, that pushes you to be so innovative. And I really think maybe that is what I'm asking tonight of this audience, is to think like entrepreneurs.
That's an important point. And let me tell you something, Leah, Chris, and everybody who is online. The more comfortable you are with your topic and your subject, it's much better for you as a communicator. The more credibility you have, and also, the audience listening to you feel that level of comfort as well. So if you're not comfortable with your organization and information, if you only know HR and you don't know the other aspects of the business, you're not going to feel comfortable sharing information. So that's key. So the business acumen is really an important part that HR professionals must take into consideration. I want to jump to something else now. So we're communicating. Many times we're communicating good news. We're happy to communicate good news. But when there's that bad news, nobody wants to communicate that bad news, Chris. And as a CEO and chairman and IT person, especially as an IT person, there's always system breakdown, communicating bad news, Chris. Talk to us about how you have seen HR people communicating bad news.
So my first ever reason to communicate bad news as a manager in an organization was I had to let somebody go. and I had to, let me tell you something. I was scared. I was nervous because the first time ever I've had to, and let me tell you, I went in the bathroom, I did some jumping jacks, and had to just come on, Chris, steel up yourself. You've done worse than this. I used to be a drag racer. You've done some dangerous stuff, man. This is just going and telling somebody that's not working out. So for me to communicate that bad news, it was, I realized that I'm affecting somebody else's life. But I had to just also clarify that you're not meeting the expectations. Later talk about business outcomes. You had some outcomes that you specifically were responsible for, and you missed all of them, and all of the warnings that we gave you, all of those are also missed. So it's a matter of just being fully transparent as to all the reasons, and ensure that that news is connected to, well, for me anyway, with that specific one, measurables. That was many, many years ago. Now fast forward to chairman, CEO of company. I try my very best to support my HR team. So if I have to be physically in the room, so let's say we have to deliver some bad news at a staff meeting, I will announce, I will start off with the discussion, and then I will hand over. And physically I'm right there supporting what information has to happen. There are private and confidential bad news that has to happen. And typically the person, delivers that on their own. My recommendation is do it quickly, do it as open and as honestly as you can, provide all the information. So we have implemented and installed a new business operating system in our organization. And one of the things that is massively important is ensuring that all our systems are driven by the mission, vision, and values of the organization. And so we have two processes in which we use to ensure that the right people are sitting in the right seat on the bus. And it's something called a GWC process. Does a person get the seat? Do they want the seat? Do they have the capability to handle the job, right? And we have a specific value speech in which we on the hiring process. It's a continuous reminder in one-on-ones. It's a continuous reminder in monthly sessions, weekly sessions. As long as a team is involved, you're continuously reminding around the values. And so once bad news has to be delivered, a lot of the times in our situation, once the systems are set up already, they automatically know the bad news is coming, because they know that they missed on a number of these values that they personally didn't hit. Everyone is given a description of their seat first, and then they're given a description of what they're expected to do in the seat. And so when we're doing the assessments, the question is always, is it a right person, wrong seat? Is it a seat too big or seat too small? Or is it just a wrong person? If it's a wrong person, we need to show them the door right now. So the frameworks and the systems are already there. And so for us, with this new dispensation of our operating system, it's a little easier for us to deliver bad news, because there's so many measurables. We have weekly meetings with scorecards. Everybody in the organization has a number. Everyone has a number. So whether it's a receptionist knows that she must answer the phone and 2 rings, or I'm responsible for this revenue and this profits, and you're responsible for ensuring that the service tickets are on. So everyone has a number somewhere, somehow. You know when somebody's going to come tap you on the shoulder, because you have the target number, and if you're not meeting that number, then bad news is going to be delivered. So
Chris, sounds like you've set up systems to kind of cushion whenever the bad news is necessary.
Is more of,
and the guiding principles that you use
is more of trying to predict and encourage good news continuously. That's right. And so when the good news start to fall off track.
Yes. I like when you frame it that way. Leah, before I ask you to jump in, I'm going to ask our participants to just jump right now in the chat and put a word or two on the worst news that you've had to deliver. So can you just type in the chat, what's the worst news that you've had to deliver? Let's see who's the first person. And it's never easy. It's never easy to let somebody go, yeah? or death of a colleague can keep you on the team. Yes, termination. Yeah, I knew that's one would be retrenchment. Yes.
That situation just yesterday. One of our
Yes.
team members, they just,
Oh,
you know,
terminate a pregnant
yesterday.
staff. Ooh, that one is rough. Changing a business model, yes. And then you had right. Wow. So these are really bad. Yes. Ooh, I got goose pimples. So it's difficult. It's difficult. So Leo, having seen some of those, what kind of advice or tip would you give to our professionals so that they can maintain their composure and prepare them for when they have to give this kind of news?
Yeah. First thing I just want to tag on to Chris is I agree with him very much in that if you are doing the right things with your performance management and or your transparency, 9 times out of 10, the bad news is not a surprise. So I am with you there, Chris. Very often there are huge gaps in how their performance is managed. So I would say that's a big one. I'm also going to get a little philosophical on you guys right now, and I will say a big part, I think, of any HR professional, any business driver, business owner is accepting that this is part of the job, like really and truly accepting in a deep way. There's a Buddhist saying that when you accept that life is difficult, life ceases to be difficult. And if you ponder on that, you'd realize that it almost makes sense, right? And if I give it to you from another slant, so I know, Chris, you are in sales, you know sales. Anybody else knows sales, in sales, been in sales? Maybe. When I'm working with sales professionals, a lot of them have, the number one thing that they'll say is, they can't take it when, customers give them pushback or they ask a lot of questions. And in sales, what do we call this? It's called an objection, right? And the sales professionals who are the top sales professionals have accepted that the objection is part of the process. It comes with the territory. So I think, one, wrapping your head around that part of your job is giving bad news will already change your mindset and help you deal with it on an emotional level. The next thing is, I would say, is to prepare. And when I say by prepare, it's, all too often, many people just jump into conversations, but it's really having a moment to think about what is the goal for this conversation? What is the outcome that I want? What do I want to cover? People assume that, they know what they want to talk about. And I think especially for the bad news conversation, you do want to prepare for it. And something that I always say, I'll say as well, practice makes better. Now, saying and doing loud and proud, that's what I do, that's what I help people with. And very often people will say, well, Leah, I did say it with compassion, or I did speak with empathy, or I did have a nice tone. And then if I have them record it or I have them role play it, surprise, surprise, right? So I often tell people, here's what. One of the best things you could do if you're not doing it with a coach, do it on your own, is actually record your voice or record on video. Recording on your voice allows you to understand how your voice actually sounds, your tone. Video helps you look at your body language. And I would be surprised if everybody recorded themselves and came back and said, no, Leah, I do a brilliant job, right? I remember once I had a client who she would be like this all the time. And when we eventually came to it, we realized she would be frowning when she was thoughtful. But of course, it was sending a different message to her audience. So if I had to get granular, I would say, don't assume that you are delivering your message as you think it's happening in your head. So record, playback, in the mirror, in the car, all of this, it really does help. It really does help. Oh, and last tip, ask advice from people who you think are great at it. So maybe you've seen a colleague who you think, wow, they're really great at whatever it is you're struggling with, if it's given bad news, ask for their advice. That's an easy one, even.
Tips, great tips. Let me see in the chat, how many of you are members of Toastmasters International? Any HR professional, a member of Toastmasters International? That's one great platform to help you. Aman, wow, that's nice. Yes, Paula, good. I'm a Toastmaster. Anybody else? And that's something I recommend. I recommend HR professionals become a member of a Toastmasters club. It helps you with your leadership skills as well as your communication skills. I'm dropping something in the chat right now. I'd like you to stop for a second. Take a read of that. And if you're brave, tell me if you understand anything that I just put in that chat. So read it. And I'm not going to read it for you. You read it, consume it, and tell me if it means anything to you. Give me a thumbs up, a thumb down, a face that says, huh, what? So scroll it down if you've lost it so that you can see it. And you're going to ask me, why did I put that there? Does anybody speak like that? Do HR people write like that? Yes. Wake up and smell the coffee? Yes. I've seen it. I've heard it. As a matter of fact, maybe I was there at some point in time. Maybe I'm still there. You know, we're all work in progress. But what is that saying to us? Practically nothing. A bunch of jargon. We're using so many things to try to communicate. And at the end of the day, our audience is not getting enough from us. Lee, I'm going to stick with you. When you see something like that, what is that telling you and what kind of assistance you can give? You're on mute, Lee. And once you finish, I'm going to jump. When you finish, I'm going to ask Chris to just piggyback on what you're saying, because as an IT guy, we know they use a lot of jargon as well. So I'll give you a minute, Leah. And I just want to give everybody a time check. We're going to be closing very soon. So this is a time check. I'm giving you 1 minute, Leah.
Okay, so number one, are you really connecting with your audience? Did you spend any time focusing on who is your audience and how they want to be spoken to? If you lose them, you know, ask them, did I lose you, right? And don't take it personally. If you did lose them, don't show it. And I would say quickly turn around. So the key here is really making sure that you are speaking to the audience in front of you.
Jump on that one. You have 30 seconds.
Right. So in terms of the jargons, being in an IT world, we are filled with them. And sadly, when you first start out, you believe that is the thing to do. And the more jargons you know, the brighter you sound, and you're in there digging it in. And then one day you kind of realize that exactly what Leah said a while ago, that audience that you think you're trying to impress, they have no clue what you're talking about. And so the end of the day is a matter of just coming to that realization and coming to that awakening. Let me just use that, spirituality word. But just coming to that awakening of yourself and realizing that, hold on, what am I here to do? Am I here to try to impress anybody with the things I'm saying? Am I here to meet a business outcome? Am I here to deliver a result and try to simplify it? So now it's 180 for me. In my presentations, again, I'm going into a room with board directors. I create a different presentation. I'm going into a room with the tech guys. It's a total different. As a matter of fact, I'm so out of the tech world in terms of fixing and touching. I understand most of the things. I bring my tech guy in the room, because when he starts talking about routing tables and all of that, that's not me. So exactly what Leah said a while ago, matching the audience, and you know it. And you have to kind of learn how to translate. I want to speak well. I speak 2 languages, right? Jamaican and Patois, right? I mean, Jamaican Patois and English, unlike Leah, who speaks 3 languages. But our other language is that language of the audience to meet the expectation that they come to receive from us.
Thank you so much, Chris. We're going to ask the participants now, if there's a particular question that you have that you want to ask, drop it in the chat now. Or if you want to wait until we go on the other side in session 2, we're going to be spending a half an hour with you. So I'm inviting Francis. Yes, Francis is coming back on now. But before we leave, I'm giving 30 seconds now to you, Leah, and to Chris. If the participants were leaving now, what's one thing that you want them to leave with?
Oh, It's a big
What
one.
I want to leave everybody with is it's not about the CEO, it's not about getting a place at the table, it's about you, what's happening in here, and really as well, it's about the business. If you really focus on those two things, you will add value to the business, you will add value to the organization.
Chris, what about you? What's
Fantastic
one thing?
advice. I would just cop out and say ditto, but no, I'm not going to cop out and say ditto. But massively important. If you have any consideration of taking that top job, you must learn about the complete business, and you must be able to switch that language as per department, as per need. You have to become that all-seeing, all-knowing, almost.
Be nimble.
Understanding. Be nimble.
Nimble and
Yes.
flexible. Yes, wonderful. Let me tell you something, Leah and Chris, I could spend another hour talking to you. The value that you both bring and the different perspective that you bring really is valuable. It was my pleasure hosting and facilitating this discussion with you. Team, Tribe, HR Forum, is there anything that you want to ask
Georgia, I'm
in the
gonna
next session? So Francis,
yes,
this
I
is
have to,
your
I have to
time.
jump in because it's gonna shut us off in just a moment.
So it's your time, Francis.
So if you could follow the link, folks, follow the link, and we'll pick up back at 7:15 or 8:15 Eastern Caribbean time. And we're going to switch over now and close out this session and then start the other one in about 2 minutes time. See you in a
See you
few.
over there. See you in the next room. Bye.